In December of 1975, a young woman walked into her home after doing something so normal, so innocent, that no one would have thought twice about it. But what happened next would spiral into one of the most haunting cold cases in Pennsylvania history. For nearly half a century, no one had any answers. There was blood everywhere. No forced entry, no clear motive. And the killer? It's like he vanished into thin air. But 46 years later, a random man, thousands of miles away, took a DNA test, and what it led to will leave you speechless. This is the story of Lindy Sue Beechler. The date is December 5th, 1975. Manor Township, Pennsylvania. Lindy Sue Beechler is 19 years old. Recently married, she was always known as a friendly, artistic and quiet girl. Just one of those people who keeps to herself, but is kind to everyone. That afternoon, she runs a couple of errands, just normal things. She picks up some groceries, rents a couple of VHS tapes, and heads back to her apartment. Later that evening, her aunt and uncle, who live nearby, stop by her house. They knock, no answer. So her uncle opens the door, and instantly, everything changes. Blood everywhere. It's on the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Lindy Sue is lying on her back in the living room, still wearing her coat. There's a knife stuck in her neck. The scene is brutal. There are 19 stab wounds, some defensive, others far worse. And here's the thing, there's no sign of a break-in, no robbery, nothing's missing. Whoever did this either came in willingly or was already inside. Police show up and immediately know this wasn't a random attack. They interview her husband, her family, friends, co-workers. They look into everyone she might have interacted with. No one has a solid lead. But there is one clue. A bloody footprint left at the crime scene. And DNA, though back then, DNA wasn't a thing you could really use yet, but they had the foresight to collect it, and so the case goes cold. For decades, the community is left in fear. Parents lock their doors. Rumors spread. Was it someone she knew? A stranger? A serial killer passing through? No one knows, and over time, the name Lindy Sue Beechler becomes a haunting whisper in the town's memory. But in the background, something is quietly building. Fast forward to 2019. Investigators decide to try something new: genetic genealogy, the same kind of DNA tracing used to catch the Golden State Killer. So they run Lindy Sue's case DNA against a public genealogy database. And boom. A hit. It's not the killer, but it is a relative. This distant cousin leads them down a rabbit hole of family trees, marriages, and siblings. Eventually, they find a man, David Sinopoli. He's 68 years old, still living in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And get this, he used to live in the same apartment complex as Lindy Sue in 1975. But they need more. They need a direct DNA sample. In 2022, investigators go full spy mode. They follow David to the airport. They watch as he tosses a coffee cup into the trash. They grab it, test it, match. 100%. The DNA from 1975, it belongs to David. There is no question. 47 years after the crime, he's arrested. And here's the wild part. He'd never even been on the radar. No criminal record. No one suspected him. And he never left town. He'd been living among the very people he traumatized, in plain sight, for almost 5 decades. So who is David Sinopoli? Why did he do it? That no one knows. As of this video, David has been charged, but he hasn't gone to trial yet. He hasn't confessed. People still don't know if he and Lindy Sue even knew each other. Was it a stalker situation? A crime of opportunity? Something more sinister? One thing's for sure. Without that coffee cup, this case might have never been solved. The murder of Lindy Sue Beechler haunted a town for nearly 50 years. It shattered a family, left a whole community in fear. And the man responsible? He was there the whole time. Quiet, unassuming, hiding in the shadows of memory. And thanks to one coffee cup, he finally got pulled into the light. Rest in peace to Lindy Sue Beechler. In March of 1975, a teenage girl left home to meet friends for pizza. She never made it. 2 days later, her body was found in the woods, brutally beaten, assaulted, and left in the cold. For nearly half a century, no one knew who did it. But in 2023, police took a shovel to an unmarked grave and uncovered a secret that had been buried with the killer. This is the story of Sharon Pryor, and how justice finally caught up with a man who thought he'd gotten away with murder. The date is the 29th of March, 1975. A neighborhood in Pointe St. Charles in Montreal, Canada. 16-year-old Sharon Pryor is a lively, sweet and well-liked girl. She's the kind of teenager who can make friends anywhere she goes. That Saturday, she's excited. She's meeting some friends at a local pizza parlor just a few blocks away. Around 6 p.m, she leaves her home. No coat. It's spring and it's mild outside. She walks down the street and never arrives. By that night, her family knows something is wrong. Sharon is never late. They start calling around, friends, neighbors, police. The next morning, hundreds of volunteers are searching the area. And on the 31st of March, 2 days later, their worst fears come true. In a wooded area in Longueuil, just across the river from where she lived, Sharon's body is found. She's been beaten, sexually assaulted, and strangled. Her clothing is torn. There's evidence she fought hard to survive, and police believe she was held captive for some time before being killed. Back in 1975, forensic science is limited. Still, police collect physical evidence, fingerprints, tire tracks, and biological material from the crime scene, but nothing matches anyone in their files. They have a vague description from witnesses of a man seen near the pizza shop, a muscular guy in his mid-20s driving a yellow car, but that's it. The case stalls. For decades, every few years, a detective would reopen the file, hoping for a break, but it never came. Fast forward to the 2000s. Advances in DNA testing mean police can now analyse the biological evidence collected in 1975. They get a full male DNA profile. It's solid like a fingerprint, but it doesn't match anyone in the criminal database. So the DNA just sits there, waiting. And then, in 2022, investigators decide to try genetic genealogy, the same method that caught the Golden State Killer. They upload the profile to the public ancestry database, and they find a distant match. Over months, genealogists build a family tree until they land on one man, Francois Primeau. Primeau was 26 years old in 1975. He had a violent criminal history, including sexual assaults. He matched the description given by the witnesses, and he drove a yellow car. But there was a problem. Primeau died in 1982, buried in an unmarked grave in Point St. Charles, the very same neighborhood where Sharon lived. If they wanted to be sure, they would have to dig him up. In May 2023, the police got a court order. They went to the cemetery and began to exhume the remains. They extracted DNA from his bones, and it was a perfect match. After 48 years, they finally have their killer. Sharon's family, especially her mother Yvonne, had waited nearly 5 decades for this moment. While Primeau can't face trial, the truth matters. They now know who took Sharon from them, and they know he can never hurt anyone again. Standing at the press conference, Yvonne said Sharon was a sweet, loving girl, and now she can finally rest in peace. A 16-year-old girl, leaving her house, walking a few blocks for pizza. Her killer thought that he had buried the truth with him. But DNA has a long memory, and even after death, it can still point a finger. Rest in peace to Sharon Pryor.